I heard D Gunn talking earlier today, and again, I'm going to make this comment before I bring D Gunn in here, but everyone is raving about Sidney Brown. I'm more impressed with Sidney Brown in his 4 months in the Philadelphia Eagle uniform than I am with Nakobe Dean in a year and a half. I mean, to me, I know why now he went in the third round. Because after Lovey left, they all talked about Devin Witherspoon as the better DB. Well, you got Matt Patricia and Sean Desai coaching this guy now. Just like Josh Allen getting better coaching in Buffalo with Brian Dable and McDermott and with Ken Dorsey. Anytime you get better coaching, you get put in better positions to succeed. I'm watching that kid, Sidney Brown, now, and I go like this. That's not the same kid that they evaluated when he was at Illinois. He runs through tackles, not to them. He does things that he didn't do in that Illinois system with the new coach, the guy that came down from Wisconsin. That's not the same dude that I'm watching now going through all these drills and skill set practices with the Browns and the Ravens. Let's bring Derrick Gunn in. And D Gunn, I'm looking at Sidney Brown, and I'm like this. Boy, I watch him. That's not the same guy I saw playing at Illinois. Mm-hmm. And I just made the comment to you, Derrick. Sometimes you get put in systems that don't really accentuate your skill set.
Absolutely.
And I think now with the coaching that he's getting in Philly, I think this guy looks like he's got first-round talent.
Here's the thing. He's playing a lot similar to the way he played at Illinois. The big difference is he's finishing his tackles better. And that's because of a better quality of coaching in that department. As far as flying to the football, as far as being over aggressive, it's the same Sidney Brown. But the one deficiency all the pundits, all the so-called scouts had against him was doesn't wrap up, tries to make the big hit, a lot of times misses tackles. Well, we saw he still tried to make the big hit, but he did a better job of finishing in the one game. Now, granted, he's playing against second and third tier players and a lot of players that are not going to be playing in the NFL in a few weeks. I got to see him do it. And that's not a knock against him. That's the evolution of a college player in any position making a transition to the pros. No matter how you try to critique them, they're always going to be critiqued against a certain group of players that are already established. It's a natural progression. But I like what I've seen of him so far. It's not tentative. He didn't think too much. See, when you play that back end position, as you know, it's a thinking man's game also. And if you stand flat-footed 1 second too long and think you're not in the right position, you miss a certain angle of coverage, or a player who's as fast, if not faster than you in many cases, is by you before you get to him because you were hesitant in terms of what you're going to do. But Sidney Brown is not just trying to make this roster. He's sending a message. I'm here to play now, not waiting the wings for somebody else to allow me to play.
Derrick, I think when you got corners like the Eagles do, that you're allowed to bring that safety position along more. And like you said, look, Devin Witherspoon is a fine ball player, but he's not James Bradbury and Darius Slay. And when you're in a position to be able to be a little bit more of a freelance player and you feel more comfortable because you got more quality players around you and more quality coaching around you, that's going to bring the best out of you, I've always thought. And when you got a front four like they have and the potential in the front four, yes, that's why I think you're seeing that safety position. And I love what you said on Monday of this week when you came out and you went, man, I'll tell you what, that's secondary better than I thought. And to me, Matt Patricia, Sean Desai, let's not forget something about Patricia. He coached Stephon Gilmore. Yes. He coached Darrelle Revis. He is a man cover guy. He's all that. Yep. And I think you're seeing the influence of all of that with Vic Fangio, with Desai in Chicago. It just seems to me these guys, that secondary is coming along quicker than I thought it was going to come along.
I agree. And when you look at the way this team is constructed, Young players come in here in most positions and don't have to hit the ground running, being the man right away because of the wealth of experience they have in front of them. You look at how many teams that draft players and expect them to come in and contribute right away, and there's a certain amount of pressure put upon them that causes them to be fearful at times, because they don't want to make a mistake, but here you've got a group of players you can learn from in the classroom and a group of players out on the field that when you make mistakes in practice, this Eagles organization, I've always said, even back to the Andy Reid tenure, they're very good about getting players who are willing to nurture other players. You played the game a lot longer than I did. There are a lot of selfish players in this game. Players that are concerned about two things: my stats, my money. Hey, I had to do it the hard way, let him do it the hard way. That's not the Eagles' way of doing things. The established players, once they've made their money, hey, look, as long as I'm here, I'm trying to get us better as a unit. We want to be relevant late into the season, not just a 16 or 17 game season, but late into the season. And that baton is continuously passed on. And so you see the Slaves and the Bradburys and all these guys go out of their way to help teach these young guys. Say, look, we need you to get this sooner rather than later because we came within 3 points of winning the Super Bowl. And you were here because the organization feels you can help us fill some gaps that we lost and yet not be in complete deficit to the overall picture of what we're trying to accomplish.
Derrick, I said this yesterday, and I want to get your take on this here. I said that Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox may be the most important players on that defense this year because if you lose one of those guys, you don't really have experienced backups here, and you could potentially have this: Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Milton Williams, zero experience. With zero experience, middle Mike linebacker. If you're going to play Sidney Brown in the secondary, limited reps with Reed, Blankenship.
Right.
All up the middle there. I mean, I think it's essential that those guys are productive this year for this football team to be successful because, again, without Fletcher in that middle and that triangle, boy, I'll tell you what, you're relying on a lot of inexperience. I'm not saying not talented.
Right,
I'm just saying, the last 2 years, Derrick, I think you and I would both agree, they got better a little bit towards the end of the year when it came that run defense, but still it struggled at times. So
yes,
I think those two guys are important to you.
I will say this about Fletch. If you're minus Fletch, you're talking about expediting the number of reps for Milton Williams and Jordan Davis. I'm not at the point where Jordan Davis is a 3-down player yet.
Right.
But I do think Milton Williams, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis is great energy, great girth, great speed in that Bermuda Triangle of tackles there. So the loss of Fletcher hurts probably at crucial points of a game, but I do think the youth and athleticism, even if they make mistakes, can make up for some of that. When you talk about the edge presence, Brandon Graham's the first to tell you he's not the same player he was 4 or 5 years ago, but he's a lot smarter player.
Yeah.
And having him out on the field to see things and to help these guys is a big difference. He's a great teacher on the sideline when he has to be, but he's more valuable in the huddle when it comes down to crucial situations. So, yes, okay, you say, well, you got Josh Sweat, you got Hassan Reddick. Reddick, yep, is a good teacher. Reddick is a good player. He's not the teacher that Brandon Graham is yet, okay? That's a valuable – I think Brandon Graham is a bigger loss. Now, even if Brandon Graham is only playing 35% of the snaps.
Correct.
Brandon Graham is a bigger loss than Fletcher Cox in that regard. Well, we got depth there. We got Nolan. We got Hassan. And we got Josh Sweat and probably Derek Barnett. Yeah, but there's something to be said for that grandfathered in time.
That just doesn't sound right, though, does it?
No,
I mean, I like Reddick too, and I like Smith, but if Graham's not there, I think there's a hole there a little bit. I mean, you're already smaller. Couple last questions for you, D. Gunn. Do you agree that the success of that defense is all going to be wrapped around the Kobe Dean success this year, whether or not? Because here, You're replacing 160 tackles, 100 solos in that. And somebody said yesterday to me, well, if, Dean's around 70, you're going to give up 100 tackles and call that a success? They were the number 2 ranked defense because of maybe two guys who did the biggest dirty work on that team last year were Kaiser White and were TJ Edwards.
Yeah.
Both had over 100 tackles, one almost 160. He's got a lot of work to do. And, boy, I'll tell you what, they are really asking him for an awful lot.
That's an interesting question. For as stout as that defensive front, and I mean front 7 were last year, they still were gouged for 121 yards a game. And, wow, did it show in that Super Bowl game that when you have the right offensive technique, you can wall off a dominant defensive line. I'm not there yet, Big Sales, in terms of how much of a loss it's going to be if you give up that. Now, let's face it, the Eagles are one of the poor tackling teams on defense, period. And look at all
ranked third by Pro Football Focus as the worst tackling team in the league.
I mean, look at all the astronomical stats they put up, except that one key category of tackling. Look how many yards they gave up after initial contact. And that's huge in a lot of crucial games.
And now you're smaller.
And you're smaller. You're smaller in the middle. And I honestly don't think Morrow's going to win that outside job, because that means you're smaller at 2/3 of your linebacking core.
I think Zach Cunningham's going to win that job.
I believe that's why they brought Jack and Cunningham in here and even Christian Ellis. I said back in May, I thought Christian Ellis was going to keep beat out Morrow, because Morrow's 6'1", 215. Ellis was 6'3", 235, 240. You got to have somebody be able to come up and impact those tackles and guards pulling on those outside run plays. I don't think Morrow's that guy. Well, Morrow had 108 tackles in Chicago. He had 11 tackles behind the line of scrimmage. How many tackles did he make after the line of scrimmage? I want to know how many tackles. See, a lot of times those tackles are deceiving. How many
tackles? 31st worst ranked defense in the NFL.
So that means he's making a lot of tackles 5-6 yards downfield.
He's chasing.
There you go. So I've got to take the wait and see approach with Dean, because he's such an unknown commodity. He went from being a special teamer and a part-time player, but having the luxury of sitting and learning from the likes of a TJ Edwards, to now he's the man in the middle. Now, there's no question about his athleticism. There's no question about his lateral speed. But at this level, can he come up and stuff the run? Can he come up and be an impact middle linebacker at this level? We won't know that until 3 or 4 games into the season. You can't judge it by the first game, and people are going to say, wow, he's the it factor. You can't judge it by the first game, because everybody's going to scheme him different.
3 games are trends. That's, in my opinion, you look at 3 games.
3 to 5 games.
Yeah, somewhere in there, first quarter poll of the season, first 4 games. That's when you kind of get a sense of who a guy is and what his ceiling is going to be. And then as a player, usually it's 3 years.
Yeah,
that's why, D-Gun, the average playing time for an NFL player is 3 years. They determine whether or not you're going to be a long-time guy or a short-term guy. One last question for you.
Yep.
Marcus Mariota, Matt Ryan, or Nick Foles? Who would you want to have behind Jalen Hurts as your backup quarterback?
I'd say Matt Ryan. I would pick Matt Ryan. People say, well, Matt Ryan never won anything, but Matt Ryan was a smart quarterback, and he was an
MVP.
Yeah, and he got stuck in a bad situation in Indy. I mean, that was just a mess in Indy. You didn't have your returning rushing leader. You had nothing to throw to there except Pittman, and he's okay. He's not special. But I'd take Matty Ice in a minute. When you stack him up with those 3. Don't get me wrong, I love Nick Foles. I know Nick Foles. I consider him a friend. I love him. But in terms of running this particular type of offense, and visualizing and executing to the nth second, I would definitely say Matty Ice. Yes.
Absolutely. By the way, our boy B. Brooks is coming on at 4:30, so I'm gonna make sure I get the second best griller of all time. I'll make sure to say hi for you here, man. So I can't wait to catch up with Barrett, man. Thank you so much for doing this. I know you're swamped today on game day. Thank you so much. Hey, by the way, make sure you check him out too, him and Mark. Hey, man, you do shows with the weirdest eating people I've ever heard in my
Thank you.
life. I mean, these guys are like 4-year-olds. The way they eat, the way they drink. I mean, I've never seen anything like it, man. Weirdo Cheerios and espresso. I'm more like you, D Gun. Give me a barbecue and a BBQ sandwich. I'm ready to rock.
Give me my meat and potatoes and some fries, and I'm good to go. You know,
absolutely.
The Cheerios with no milk and Farzetta with his 3 espressos a day with the pinky up stuff. You know what, man? You know, see, that's why I told them both. Neither one of you can sit down with me at a dinner table because if anything, I'd get up out of disgust. I would.
Let me ask you this. Do you think any of them have ever eaten food with their hands? Thank you, D. God love you, man. I appreciate you doing this.
Likewise, brother. You have a good show.
You got it, man. Don't forget to catch D Gun out, too, in the postgame talking Eagles right here on JAKIB Sports, too. So we really appreciate you guys doing that. All right, hit the like button here. I threw that off of Derrick here. So tonight, think about it. Mariota, want to see him in the 2-hole here. Would you rather have Matt Ryan, or would you rather have Foles, or would you rather have Marcus Mariota? Mariota fits the skill set of what the offense is going to be. Can you imagine Jalen Hurts going over to the sidelines, talking to Brian Johnson and Matt Ryan? What do you see? Matt Ryan's an NFL MVP. And by the way, for anyone to say that quarterbacks failed in Indianapolis, that's not an indictment on the players any longer. That's an indictment on Jim Irsay. Jim Irsay is the reason that the Colts fumble the ball every year. They're the reason they don't get it right. Look, I know the sentimental favorite would be Nick Foles, but I want to have Jalen going over to the sidelines with a guy who's not a cult figure in Philadelphia and a guy who was a former NFL MVP who helped take a team to a Super Bowl. I mean, can you imagine him and I think that's a perfect scenario. And I don't think it'd be a lot of money. Okay? So wait, some of you would rather have Marcus mediocre versus a former NFL MVP on the sidelines talking to Hurts. And in case of a disaster, you have a guy who almost beat you a year ago even. Seriously. I don't know how you don't look at it that way. I mean, and he's not going to cost you a king's ransom. Barrett Brooks will join us at 4:30 as well as we get ready for tonight's Eagles and Browns game. Let's get into some of the players that I want to see. By the way, I want to close that whole thing up on what we were talking prior to getting D Gun on. I want to see the overall depth of the team too tonight. Okay? We just talked about the quarterbacks, and we haven't even got to our topics yet. You know, I will get to one of the topics here. I'll do the coaches now. Here's what I want to see tonight from the coaches. I want to see tonight how the coaches communicate on defense again. I thought they did a really good job defensively in that Ravens game. Looked like everybody knew where they were going. I didn't see a lot of missed assignments. Offensively, with all the new faces, I thought it was pretty good. I mean, you're playing with 2s and 3s, sometimes 4s in a first exhibition game. This is the dress rehearsal. So you got to kind of be ready to rock here. So I want to see the overall depth and how the coaches handle it. I want to see a little bit of the special teams tonight. Okay? I want to see special teams. Your special teams are one of the worst units in the league. Is it going to get better? Hey, for the record, I'd like to put Sidney Brown's ass on that team and have him run down there like a ball hawk, knocking people out down there. Yeah, I'd like to see Nolan Smith on that team. You can't have a shitty special teams going to New England in week 1. Okay, you can't. You know, I miss the days when you had Lawrence Taylor and Carl Banks, Gary Reasons, Pepper Johnson on the kickoff team for Bill Belichick. He still does that shit to this day. Puts his frontline guys on special teams. That's why he's got the best units every year, because he puts his best players and he always wins that battle. Hey, I'll say it to you right now. Right here on August 17th, I'll say it to you. You will lose the special teams battle in New England. You will lose the special teams battle. But then again, that's not really much of a prediction, because you lose it every week anyway. So we'll see. We'll see here. I want to see the coaches continuing to develop. Okay? So, yeah, you know what? Quan goes, we're going to be kicking off a lot, Sills. Yeah, but too bad you'll be giving up field position like you always do. Teams will be starting on the 37 to 38-yard line every week on you, too. And then with your suspect defense, you'll be playing short fields almost. That's not going to cut it. That's not going to cut it. You'll be kicking off and can't cover. I mean, let's not forget the Green Bay game. I mean, you can't cover. And get this. This is not an opinion. You can't cover. And last year you had the second-rate defense. This year you don't. Okay? Quan goes against Mac Jones, so scary. Oh, that Tyler Heineke. Man, he strikes fear in you. Wow. Tyler Heineke, who's not even playing anymore in Washington, beat the shit out of you last year. Wow, that Tyler Heineke. Tyler Heineke. Yeah. Yeah. Woo. Andy Dalton. Woo. Those guys are world beaters, baby. Always count on Quan to bring nonsense to the table. Thank you, dude. You're entertaining, if anything. You can't cover. See, here's what the Eagles will do. They'll score, kick off, give the ball to somebody on the 35 to 40-yard line. You go half the field, kick a field goal. You keep yourself in a game. That's how you drop a game. Simple as that. Bang. All right. So we talked about the quarterbacks. Ian Book should be fired. He should not be on the Eagle team. So watch this. Ian Book, goodbye. And I'm going to talk about players just like this, because this is how personnel people do it. Ian Book will be turning in his playbook very soon. He should not be on a practice squad in Philly, maybe somewhere else, but not in Philadelphia. Not good enough. I want to see more of Tanner McKee. Let's see him do it again. Let's see him do it under pressure. Let's see who he is. Okay? I mean, he made me do this. It looks like he could play. Well, let's see him do it again. Is it a one of? Is he that guy? Is there something to work with? He doesn't fit the offense, but he looks like he's something. So let's see what he can do. He's not my number 2. And Marcus Mariota, I just am not sold on him. I've never been. I didn't like him coming out in the draft. I never did. I didn't think he was anything at Oregon. They gave him the Heisman, and I'm like, yeah, okay. He's the West Coast version of Tim Tebow. I never maybe a better arm a little bit. Tanner McKee looks better than Marcus Mariota ever did. I don't know. I don't think he's the answer at 2. If let me say this to you. If Mariota is the quarterback for any stretch, it'll look worse than Gardner Minshew. I don't believe in it. I just don't believe in it. I think Mariota's not very good. And then again, Marcus Mariota's never been good. All right. Let's go down the list here. Running backs. How much do I want to see Swift? I'd want to see Swift more with McKee than Mariota. Maybe 20 plays, 15 plays. And maybe 10 to 15. I don't want to go 20. That's too many. 15 to 20. Get him some, especially in the passing game. I don't want to run him in between the tackles. I don't need to see DeAndre Swift running in between the tackles. That's not what I'll put those other dudes in there, Scott and Gainwell, to run in between the tackles, and Troy Sermon. I'll do those three dudes. I don't need to put Swift in harm's way. That's not what I'm looking to do. I'm looking to get to week 1 against New England with him. And he's RB1 as far as I'm concerned. And right now, I would list him as RB3 because I don't want him anywhere near running the ball in between the tackles. Makes no sense. Okay? Makes no sense. The wide receiver position is troubling. I think the Philadelphia Eagles have troubles at wideout. Do you? Do people think the Eagles have problems at wideout? Joseph says no. Okay. So, Joseph, you lose Devontae Smith or you lose A.J. Brown. You comfortable with Devontae Smith and Quez? I don't think Penny will make the team too slow. Jameson, he'll probably make it. Are you high? I said your wide receiver group. Once again, a group doesn't make two. That's a couple. Listen to my words. How is your wide receiver core? And I'll show you another position on your team where you're strong. You lose one of those wideouts, you got a mediocre wide receiver core. Right now, with the two dudes, they're elite two dudes. You don't have an elite and a good group. Actually, the Cowboys have a better group. Brandon Cooks, CeeDee Lamb. They got the other kid that's a pretty good player who's better than Quez. The Cowboys have a better group. You have two better players. That's a fact. But as a group, they could sustain the war and the war of attrition. You can't there. Hey, you don't want to hear that. But injuries in this sport, ask Hassan Reddick, are part of the game. Freak ones, stupid ones. Happens. You're not going to be as healthy as you were a year ago. You are not. And you hope you don't get hurt at a position you're not deep at. You're not deep at wideout. The kid from Atlanta could be decent. I'd like to see him. Gary Ward. What's Devin Allen doing on the team? What's he doing there? I mean, is he on special teams or some shit? What's he doing? If we lose Brown and Smith, the receiving room is screwed. That's Tone. That's a fact. You lose one of those guys, your boat's taking on massive water. Dude, then you'll start then you'll start looking like some of the other teams around the league that don't have, you'll look like the Giants. You'll look like the Giants wide receiving room. Only better because you'll have Devontae or AJ. Hey, and for the record, what did AJ ever do in Tennessee by himself? You don't think him coming to Philadelphia and having Devontae on the other side helps? Sills hasn't watched the games. I don't know what you're talking about. This guy thinks he's got a good wide receiving room outside of A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. There's no debating that. I won't. And I won't go back and forth on that because you do not. Quez Watkins is not. If you're counting on Quez Watkins as your 3 guy, you're sorely in trouble. He's a marshmallow. He's a marshmallow. So you need to find some people here to strengthen the room in case of any injuries. Goddard's not a wide receiver. Tight end, let's go there. Who's Dan Arnold? Got enough depth there? Think if you lose Goddard, I thought you backpedaled a little bit after Goddard got hurt offensively. I thought the thing backpedaled a bit. You are not deep at tight end at all. That tight end room's not very good. And again, who's Dan Arnold? Let's see him tonight. Throw him some footballs. Let's find out if there's any kind of depth there. Let's find out. You have 0 depth at tight end. You need to develop. I'm not saying, there was a time on this team you had Goddard and Zach Ertz. You've gone from that to Goddard and hoping he stays healthy for 17 games. Okay? I'm a Goddard fan. Okay? So, who's this guy? Hey, Sills, listen to this. Between Smith, Brown, and Goddard, they accounted for 76% of Jalen Hurts' targets. That tells you everything you need to know about the depth chart and who he trusted with the rock. Yeah, the rest of the guys were nobodies. Almost 80% of his throws went to those 3 men. Those are the only 3 men he trusts. The rest of them are just guys. You're not deep at skilled positions. Not saying there's a lot of teams in the league that are. But you're relying on 3 people. 3 people you're relying on not to get hurt. Actually, 4, the quarterback, too. Okay? The chat loves stats so damn much. Throw that stat in her face. That's Tone. 80% of his targets went to 3 dudes. And the rest of these guys were bums. Bums. Okay? Again, Jalen needs all these players to move the chains. That includes running backs, tight ends, and wide receivers. Wow. 80% went to 3 dudes. There's a stat for you guys. Take home and talk to your boys when you're on your super chat or you're on your group text when you're sitting around in a circle jerk talking to one another. Sileo said that there's 3 dudes, 80%. That's not true. That's a lie. Yeah. Okay. Left guard. Opeta, I'd like to see him play a little bit. I actually like him. Hey, by the way, I think the depth on your O-line, okay, I think your group on your O-line is really coming along. Is that a shocker? Probably not. Right? Is that a shocker? It's probably not a shocker because Jeff Stoutland's there. I want to see Josh Sills, Tyler Steen at right guard. I actually like Josh. I think he's a good player. Now watch this. Here's your depth. Josh Sills, Tyler Steen, Dennis Kelly, and Jack Driscoll. How do I feel about that depth? Dude, I think this guy Steen could start on 65% of the teams in the National Football League right now. and he's going to be a backup. Jack Driscoll could be a swing guy almost at every position except for center in your old line. I love him. Look, is he the best tackle? No. Is he the best guard? No. But can he play all positions? Yeah. It's the best Swiss Army knife you have in the league. It's great. This kid Steen could play right tackle and right guard. Name a team that deep out of position, and I'll wait. That's not the point. Jalen Hurts needs those guys if you're going to go to the Super Bowl. If you lose one of those wideouts, you're not going. He's not going to throw for 4,700 yards. And then you're going to rely on a run game. And you'll be back to being one-dimensional. You missed the point here. And Hurts is going to have to run more. If you lose a wideout, Hurts will have to run for 1,200 yards, 1,300 yards. He ain't throwing for 4,000 yards with Quez Watkins and Devontae Smith. Who do you think he is? Patrick Mahomes? Josh Allen? He's got one wideout up there. Diggs. That's it. No back. Good old line. No tight end. Nothing. You have all that. You can't lose that. You can't. I like this group. Hey, Derek Barnett, what kind of camp has he had? Has he shown up anywhere? I've heard nobody say anything except for his pathetic fight. Here's another guy. Derek Barnett being on a football team's a joke. Why are you giving out hall seats? Why are you giving out locker room chairs to guys who don't deserve to be on the football team? I don't get this. He restructures his contract. I don't give a shit. He should be handing money back anyway. I mean, this guy's robbing a bank known as the Philadelphia Eagle National Bank. This guy's pathetic. He will let you down. He has no discipline. I don't want a guy like that on my team. The only thing that's for sure is that he's not disciplined. Why is he there? Let me guess. Because how we drafted him high. Okay? I want to see Nolan Smith. How are you going to play him? How are you going to play him? Kayvon Wallace. Hey, by the way, this Greedy Williams kid, is he a player? Is he anything? What is he? Who is he? I'm going to reset this. Okay? And by the way, there's no shade on Jalen. But if you lose one of those wideouts, he couldn't throw for 4,000 yards and stay healthy with AJ and Devontae Goddard on the roster. What are you going to do with Quez and Devontae as your guys? And that's it. And broken down backs. You think he'll stay healthier or not? Again, this tonight is about developing the guys underneath. I started the program out, didn't I, Tone? By saying that Hurts has had a spectacular camp. Spectacular camp. Don't go crazy with me here. Barrett Brooks, hour number 2 at 4:30 Eastern. Keep it right here on the National Football Show. Tone, I'll tell you what. Tone, let me do this before we take the time out here. Let's do this here. Our good friends at Hooters here, don't forget, hey, by the way, tonight for Thursday Night Football, guys, make sure you get out there to Hooters. This is going to be the official home for the National Football League, and you are going to love it tonight. It is going to be absolutely packed tonight. People are going to absolutely love it here when you go over to the Hooters in King of Prussia. By the way, 7 locations all around the area. Go to northeasthooters.com to find that location nearest you for you to be able to have yourself that great time. Your fantasy draft parties, watching football tonight, home of the Eagle fans, all the playoff, or excuse me, all the exhibition football games that you'll see throughout the entire weekend. You can see it right there at Hooters. Fantasy drafts, call them now. By the way, also, the Iconic Girls will be able to serve you there Tuesdays. Buy 10 wings, get 10 boneless free. Wing Wednesdays, 1983. All you can eat, kids eat free on Saturdays as well. Go to northeasthooters.com to find a location nearest you, one of the 7 locations nearest you, for you to be able to reserve your seat and watch the Eagles tonight. Your football on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. This is going to be your one-stop place. Make no mistake about it. And when you go to Hooters, do me a favor, tell them Big Sil sent you.